Let us start. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. The way to a fortunate rebirth, the law of karma. This is a very short paragraph, very short chapter. Before we actually start looking at this chapter, I wanted to come back to the last chapter. When we actually finished the last chapter, I actually put out a list of reflections, right? Remember that? So I wanted to go over that reflections. So remember the last chapter, chapter 4, we actually studied the happiness visible in this present life by upholding the Dharma in society, by upholding the Dharma in the family, and by adopting a right livelihood, proper use of wealth, and a family's men's and women's responsibilities, how to act as a wholesome family man or a family woman. And then there is this subchapter on the community, the 6 cordialities of how to actually conduct oneself when one is in a community. And the purification is for all 4 castes. And then the last one is the 7 principles of social stability. That is not the last one. The last one is actually bringing tranquility to the land. So that was quite a long chapter, covering actually a lot of aspects. And also there is actually the wheel-turning monarch also. But that chapter actually covers from a small cosmos, like a person, to a bigger cosmos. It's like the society, right? And then right in between is the family and how one should adopt adopt the Dharma in oneself's life. So I had 2 questions last time, actually. So after we have studied this chapter, I don't know whether you still remember some of the content of that chapter 4. After reading those, I'm sure the bits and pieces may still stay in your mind. So after we have studied that chapter, how much more convinced are you about the benefits of upholding the Dharma in our lives? And is it really possible to do it? Is it possible to really uphold the Dharma in our life? And are you convinced by what the Buddha actually taught about upholding the Dharma in our lives, in our societies, in our families, or in our communities? And then what kind of influences that it will bring to us and to others? It's your turn. Nobody wants to talk? Nora, okay.
I I'm convinced if we did what he suggested, society would be much, much better, and it's possible for us to all try.
Yeah, yeah. Have you experienced it yourself, Nora?
Well, I mean, I really believe in karma, and I believe in rebirth. So yeah, I think about it a lot. It's like, oh, that's not a good thing to do.
Ah, good, good. So you constantly reflect upon yourself, your actions, right? That's good.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't think about my intention beforehand, but I catch myself afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, that's the Buddha said. There is awareness before you actually perform, or we don't become aware and then we performed, and then after we perform we become aware. So that's another level, another level. But there is also after you perform you don't even become aware. Only when consequences appear, you say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And sometimes that's too late. The hurt has been done or the damage has been done. And some people don't even really notice, don't even know that they have, they have really done some hurt to, not necessarily to others, but to themselves too, right? So there's this really sharp faculties is, being aware, being able to be aware of the intention and stop. Yeah. Stop there. But then there is the second groups of people is forget about the intention. Didn't remember about the intention, but just act. And then when they act, oh, darn, I have acted. So that's the second group. The third group is acted, but not knowing for a long, long time. And eventually when the consequences come, is that, oh, I shouldn't have done it. Then the fourth group is not knowing at all. Until the last breath, don't even notice. So remember, the Buddha actually compared these four kinds of people with an animal. Mm-hmm. Remember which animal? Anybody remember? No? No?
Well, the pig and the snake and the whatever, is that what?
No, just one animal. No? You have, how many times you have read this book? I always like to tease you. Remember? You remember the horse? Eva, you remember now, right? No, you don't? Oh, those people who are very sharp faculties, it's just like a horse, a really, you remember now? Okay, a really, really good horse. The rider sits on it and he just goes. What's the second horse? The second type of horse is, no, only seeing the shadow of the whip. Only seeing the shadow of the whip, it will just go. The third type of horse is the whip has to really beat it, then it will go. The fourth type of horse is, even with the whip, it won't go. He has to dig his boots. What do you call that? The boots have some spurs. Dig the spurs into his flesh until it bleeds. Then it was just sort of like a slow motion, moved a little. The Buddha actually taught such a beautiful simile. This one, compare that to a horse. Our faculties, our awareness. So choose whatever kind of horse you want to be. Definitely don't become the last one, okay? Otherwise you'll be scars all over the place. You'll be blood bleeding all over the place, and still standing there not knowing, and the rider keep kicking on you. Okay, so that's the horse simile. Okay, anybody else about this last chapter? Yes, Laurie?
I feel like I'm completely convinced, and I feel that I have changed so significantly when I reflect back over the years of my life and the way that I am now, and my day-to-day thinking and being in the moment is so different from the way that I was before.
Okay.
So, and I'm so grateful for that.
Good.
Yeah.
So Laurie is here tonight. She said she's definitely is convinced that the upholding the Dharma will bring many benefits, because she said reflecting back onto the old days to now, she said she has changed so much, and she said a day-to-day, everyday life, you think differently, you act differently, and so it's just completely turn around. Yeah. 4 years? 5 years? 6 years. Wow. Old timer, eh? Not yet. 10 years, you can call yourself old timer. Wow. Well, the time well invested. Time well invested, really. Only when you actually invested all this time, then you start to look back and check on yourself. Wow, I am very different from before. Thinking very differently, acting very differently. And you see, these changes are invisible. So people think, oh well, I've studied this for a few years and I still haven't changed. Well, then better check on yourself. What's going wrong? Definitely there will be changes. That will be definitely. Yeah. Go ahead, Eva.
I'm thinking back to the horse simile, and I'm wondering if you can see that internally as well, not just in relationship with someone or something outside.
Of course.
How we're working.
Of course.
With ourselves.
If you do not change internally, you will never be able to change the way you deal with people. It's only possible when it's changed internally. Right? Agree?
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking of the horse simile in particular.
Oh, horse simile.
How we work with our own mind.
Okay. The horse simile, okay.
Are you saying we start with the spurs?
Yeah.
So Eva said that with the horse simile, she said it's also say like how you work with your own mind. And then Paul said, so are you saying that we start with the spurs? Yes, start with the spurs. We all start with the spurs. We all start with the spurs, really. And sometimes we stay in the spurring stage for a long, long time. And sometimes we come out faster. And in some aspects, we stay in there for a long, long time. In some aspects, we stay in there for a very short time. It really depends on really karma, our own karma. Good. So, anybody else want to share a little bit on that chapter before we go on? Okay, Varsha. You're going to mute her? Yeah, okay. Good.
I just, the part of the last chapter that I really loved were the principles of cordiality.
Yes.
And even though we have to start with ourselves, I think that what I've learned through this chapter and everything that I'm learning is that that you can't do this
Alone.
independently. It
Yeah.
has to be done alone. It has to be done with the lens looking out, so that we can have a community that's harmonious.
Mm.
And that particular section, the cordialities, talked about loving kindness. So I think about loving kindness and compassion, and how I've learned that if I do things for myself, it won't really be effective. But if I extend that to people around me and to work together with people, it's so much more effective. You can't do it independently.
No, we can't do it independently because we are a pack animal. We are a pack species, right? We are a pack species. So our lives depend on so many other people. Our food, our clothing, everything depends on so many other people, and because of that relationship, that we actually allow us to see how we are, what we are, and how do we deal with things. And if we don't realize that how we are and what we are, how are we going to change? If we are always alone by ourselves, the biggest enemy is who? Nobody. It seems that there is nobody, but of course there is this inner Mara. But the outside world, because we are a pack animal, then we cannot avoid the outside world, right? We cannot avoid that, and actually the outside world, the relationship with the outside world, with community, with people, given us many more opportunities to understand ourselves, to know about ourselves, and that is a wonderful opportunity that human beings have. Right, that we all have, because the community. Great, thank you. All right, then we go on. So we go on to chapter 5, the way to a fortunate rebirth. Okay, so this one is actually the first subchapter is talk about the law of karma, and so. This whole chapter actually this subchapter actually started by a Brahmin called Sik Moggallana. Sik Moggallana, the Brahmin, one day he went to see the Buddha. Of course, Bhikkhu Bodhi didn't actually write the beginning of the story. But when you go through the Nikaya, you will see actually there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 or 6 different chapters. Somebody in the waiting room. Different chapters or different really different chapters about these 4 kinds of karma. The difference is only just a few words, but I don't know why there are so many different subchapters about on this same chapter. But anyway, the story, how it comes about is Sik Moggallana, actually the Brahmin, one day went to see the Buddha, and of course after seeing the Buddha, he paid respect, and like all the monks and like all the people, showing the respect and greetings, and then stood to one side. And then asked the Buddha, respected one, Master Gautama, he said, a few days ago I met my student. It's called Sonya Kayana. So in the short term it's Sonya. So Sonya actually came to me and told me that the ascetic Gautama, that means you, my respected Gautama, he said, you actually advocate not doing any deeds. Not doing any deeds, that means not doing anything. And so he told me that you claim you actually teaches the annihilation of the world. That means not doing anything. But I have a question. the world exists through deeds, right? We need to dress, we need to eat, those are deeds, right? We need to help people, those are deeds. Or we need to receive help from others, those are deeds. So those are deeds. But it's very strange, why would you say that to him? So that was Sonya Kanyana, his student. The Buddha said to Sikha he said, well, I can recall seeing this student of yours. I can even recall seeing him, let alone the discussion. So that whole thing was sort of like a myth or whatever. But the Buddha said, but anyway, I will tell you about these 4 kinds of karma. And the first one is, he said, the first one is dark karma with dark results. We'll look at it individually. And the second one is bright karma with bright results. The third one is dark and bright karma with dark and bright results. And the last one is neither dark or bright karma, leading to neither dark or bright results. And it says in here, leading to destructions, leading to the final destructions of karma. So let us look at these individually. So dark karma with dark results. He says, when dark karma arises, or when somebody performs dark karma, that means it generates an afflictive volitional formation. And I want to use the word sankhara here, of body, speech, or mind. When somebody is facing a situation and the situation arises and then he acts or he reacts, or he or she, it doesn't matter. So I will just use he. Okay, he reacts. He reacts with a volitional formation, an afflictive one, a damaging one. So what kind of afflictive volitional formation we are talking about of body, speech, and mind? What kind of volitional formation could be afflictive? So afflictive that we call them dark. Greed, okay. Hatred, delusion, ignorance, okay. Which leads to unwholesome body, speech, and mind reactions, right? So as a householder, so what kind of or even as a monastic, what kind of these dark karmas are we talking about? Greed, anger, delusion or ignorance. Then we start to what? We start to kill, we start to steal, we start to commit sexual misconduct, we start to lie, we start to use harsh speech, slandering speech, gossip, whatever. And then we start to lose the balance of our mind, the clarity of our mind, the focus of our mind, we get drunk. So those are the mundane level. But the supramundane, or you can call one more level up, beyond these 5 precepts, there are actually more serious, unwholesome, dark karma, dark actions killing the parents. Remember the five unrepentable actions? Killing the father, killing the mother, intentionally causing bleeding, of a Buddha, like Devadatta, remember? And creating a schism in a community, in a monastic community. Okay, so what is the last one? 殺父殺母，出佛身血。Arahant, killing an arahant. Killing an arahant, yes. Okay, so these are the 5 really, really serious, dark, volitional, afflictive volitional formations. Okay, so when these people actually generate these afflictive volitional formations, this sankhara, we can call them, of body, speech, and mind, when they died, when they passed away this lifetime, they were reborn in, he said, in an afflictive world. So afflictive world is not necessarily hell's, okay? Not necessarily hell's realm. It could be a human world too, or it could be an animal world. It could be a hell's realm, but it could be in a human world where there is a lot of maybe afflictions or calamities. Okay, so then when he is reborn in those worlds, he will be touched by those. He will have touched by those afflictive contexts. So, if, for example, if he is born in an animal world, so then he will be touched by those others really, really angry or greedy or delusional animals. Other animals, not necessarily their own kind, but could be other animals. Okay, so when these afflictive contexts touch him, how does he feel? What does he feel? How does he feel? He experiences an afflictive feeling. It's extremely, extremely painful. So this is dark karma because of the unwholesomeness. And unwholesomeness brings these unwholesome consequences. So he said in here, the beings in hell's experience. Of course, if you only if you study the Pali canon, that it didn't really mention much about hell experiences. But if you study the Mahayana tradition, then there is literally quite a few sutras I should talk about hell's experiences. What does it entail? So in one of the sutra it's called Ksitigarbha Sutra, Bodhisattva Sutra, right? His sutra, and in there are a few chapters talking about all different house realms, and one of the house realm I could share with you is the boiling oil house realm, and when people are actually in those house, their body was thrown into this big pot or big wok of boiling oil, burning oil. So all the flesh like become ash because it's so the temperature was so high, and then just leaving the skeleton, and some of those people, the guards will take the skeleton out. And then the flesh will return. And then once the flesh returns, it will be put into the oil again. It seems very, very sort of cruel. It seems very cruel, but it happens in our human world. If you have seen, we have seen it, right? In hospital, burn unit. It's just like being thrown into a deep pot of oil. Every day you have to go and peel off the scab, the skin, and change the dressing. It's just like that, exactly like that. And even though if they are cured of that, if they recover from the burn, but the afterwards complications, the afterwards pain could be so intolerable, could be so excruciating, could drive one person crazy. Really. I have seen that myself. A friend of mine, her husband was burned in an accident, 70% burn, but he recovered. The whole body was scarred, whole body. It was 35 years ago. Still up to now, he is still experiencing excruciating pain. And that pain could actually drive him to suicide. He has so many suicides, and none of them actually succeeded. And he was hospitalized so many times in psychiatric hospitals, using so much medications, and just couldn't. Of course, part of that pain could be mental pain, but a lot of that pain are actually physical. And the story I tell you about this health realm is actually we can vividly see it in humans' world, vividly seeing it. So it's really not a story. It is true. Okay? So those dark karma will bring those dark consequences. I tell you, I remind you, the Buddha is not trying to threaten us. Not like other religions. Oh, if you don't listen to me, you will be. If you don't have faith in me, then you will be born in hell. No. He's telling you we are all responsible for our own actions. So it's up to ourselves whether we pick to behave in the dark karma, or to perform dark karma, or to perform bright karma. It's up to us. He actually tells us this is the consequence. This is the cause, this is the consequence. And nobody can carry your consequences for you. So he's not threatening us. He's actually what? He's actually putting all the facts on the table, all the cards on the table. You can choose it yourself. It's up to you. Nobody can help you. Nobody can carry your cards. You are totally responsible. We are totally responsible ourselves for our own actions, for our own intentions. Okay? So this is the first one, the dark karma. And the second one is the bright karma with bright results. So he said, so someone generates a non-afflictive volition formation of body, speech, and mind. So non-afflictive volitional sankhara, non-afflictive action. What do you mean by this bright karma? What do you understand by this bright karma? Anybody?
Wholesome.
Huh?
Wholesome.
Wholesome, yes, wholesome. Wholesome, not killing, not lying, not stealing, not committing sexual misconduct, and not taking intoxicants, and not killing your parents, and not intentionally making a Buddha bleed, and not killing an arrowhead, not intentionally create a schism, and all these wholesome actions. So those are bright actions, bright bodily or verbal or mental actions. So having done so, when he dies, he will be reborn in a non-afflictive world. So, what is a non-afflictive world? It could be human, it could be diva. Yes, of course. Yeah. But this actually mostly diva. Because how could a human world be non-afflictive? Right? Even us living in this world as a monastic, I still live in an afflictive world, right? But that's, of course, dealing with it could be different, though. So then there will, when he was reborn, then there will be non-afflictive context touching him or touching her. And then in that encounter, then he will experience a very non-afflictive feeling, and extremely pleasant. Extremely pleasant. And of course, in here, as I said just now, is the diva experience. So in order to be reborn in a diva world, you could see a person has to be extremely performing a lot of really bright karma. Okay, so that is the prerequisite of being reborn in heavenly existence. Now then we look at this dark and bright karma with dark and bright results. Of course, similarly as before, the dark and the bright. The dark is the unwholesome ones, the bright is the wholesome ones. So someone generates both an afflictive volitional and non-afflictive volitional formation of body, speech, and mind. So, Laurie, this is more likely in this human world, right? This is actually in this human world. So through our whole life experience, we constantly diving between this and that all the time, dark and bright, bright and dark, dark and bright all the time. Yeah, and so, and then we react or act with dark and bright, dark and bright. Sometimes we deal with a negativity, with a negative or with a difficult situation with very bright intention, with very bright mind. But sometimes we deal with it with a very negative, in a very negative way, in a very reactive way, with those old habits of reactions. And so this is, both of these actually exist in this human world. And then he is reborn in a world that is both afflictive and non-afflictive. It's just our human world. So, of course, when he is reborn in such a world, he will be touched by such people, both afflictive and non-afflictive. Or you can say that he will be touched by both wholesome and unwholesome people. Okay, he will encounter those two people in his life. And of course, in that, then he will experience both unpleasant and pleasant feelings in that encountership. And so this is a mixture of pleasure and pain. Isn't it the reflection of our mind, of our life? It's a complete reflection of our life. A mixture of pleasure and pain. So, and this is actually human life. This is human life. So now there comes a point is neither dark or bright. Should I use nor? I should use nor, right? Not or, yeah. neither dark nor bright karma, leading to neither dark nor bright results. So this person is so wholesome, and he abandoned all the dark karma, which brings dark results. Definitely a very wholesome person, but not just abandon the dark karma. He or she even abandons the bright karma. So, isn't that a controversy? Isn't that contradict with each other? What do you think? No?
No, because if you're not mindful in the neither part, you're still reacting to both.
Yes, then that's the last group. Yes, but why would he say the volition to abandon the bright karma, which bring the bright results? Don't you want? Okay, Nora, don't you want bright results? Don't we all want bright results, Nora? Okay.
I'm guessing it means being equanimous. So you're not striving for, like trying to cling on to pleasant or good things.
Yes. Equanimity. So you don't, when you actually perform bright karma, you say, oh, I perform bright karma. Okay, I'm going to have a lot of bright results. Bright results. Bright karma is bright karma. This is my responsibility to behave brightly. And this is the path to behave brightly, right? And we don't need to boast about it. We don't need to attach to it. We don't need to show it off. We don't need to do anything. It should be like this. We should be walking on the path like that. But not just knowing that we should be, but we abandoning also. That means what Nora said, we are so equanimous that we don't attach to any at all. That means we don't wish for, or we don't crave for, and we don't judge and we don't label. When we said dark and bright, we already have a judgment in there, isn't it? Oh, you're behaving so darkly, you're behaving so brightly. We already start to judge. And if we want to be really liberated, that little bit of judgment also needs to be removed, needs to be eradicated. So no judgment, non-judgmental. Okay? And then leads to the destructions of karma. Because why? When you perform dark, of course, you will be reborn in dark places. When you perform bright, you will be reborn in bright places. But that is not total liberation. Remember that the original intention of the Buddha teaching, giving his teaching, is he wants to liberate people. He wants to liberate all beings from sufferings. And if we are attached to either of these karma or any of the results, we are not liberated. The devas are not liberated. The devas are only having fun in the devas world, enjoying themselves in the devas world. But eventually when those karma, bright karma is exhausted, then they will come back, falling down again to follow whatever karma, the leftover karma that they still have. So that's very important to remember. Okay? So leads to the destruction of karma. That means total, complete depletion, exhaustion of all karma. Okay? So, and the Buddha said you need to remember these 4 kinds of deeds, because I myself experienced that with my own insight. I realized them with my own insight. It's not a story created. It's not something that he just drew out. But he actually experienced that himself throughout the eons of practice. Okay? So we can see the process of karma and its effects is with dark or bright or both or neither, that leads to the rebirth in a different world, according different worlds, right? And then when they are reborn in such world, they will be touched by such beings. Different kind of context, and they will be touched by them. And when they are touched by them, they will have a very different kind of feelings, pleasant or unpleasant. Okay, so this is the process of karma. And of course, with the different kinds of feelings, do you think that this cycle will go on? Will go back to the first one? Dark, bright, both, or neither? It will. It's just like a cycle, right? So, it is a very short chapter because the next chapter is very long, so I don't want to actually start the next chapter. So, I want all of us to reflect on this. Do you have any questions about so far? Sandra? You have to unmute yourself, Sandra. Not yet. Just a minute, Sandra. Let them unmute you. There they go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so happy I finally got Zoom back. What I was wondering is there anything, if you've created some dark karma
Mm-hmm.
and aware that you did so
Mm-hmm.
with volition, is there anything you can do to reverse the effects of that karma?
Well, really you cannot reverse something that you have done, but you can repent. You can repent of those unwholesome deeds that you have done. And repentance, there are two parts to repentance, or penitence. I would rather use the word penitence than repentance. Penitence. For penitence, there are two parts to it. Okay? The first part is you realize that you have done some unwholesome deeds. And you admit it. You admit it. Okay? So admit it is not just admit it to yourself, but openly admit it. Preferably to an elder. And you say, who is the elder? You can admit it to a monastic. Monastic is your elder. Or you can admit it to your spiritual teacher, considered to be an elder. Okay? Or you can admit it to anybody who you look up to for guidance, and they consider as your elder. It's just like a sort of like a confession. Okay? So, but that is the first part, is you become aware of it, you admit it, openly admit it. But the most important is the second part. The second part is you become very aware that you will not commit that mistake or commit that unwholesome action again. That's true penitence. But if you only have that first part, you cannot call that a penitence. Only with the second part coming, then you can call that a true penitence. And for the ancient teachers, all the ancient teachers who actually taught about penitence, and even the Buddha has said that before, for somebody who is really sincerely feels so remorse about their wrongful actions, that intention of penitence is so strong that it could push the blood out through all these orifices. It has to be so strong. Of course, it's impossible. As human beings, as we very mundane human beings, it's actually very difficult to have that kind of such a strong intention or strong penitence. But at least when we think about that wrongful doing, we sort of feel kind of have a very strong remorse in us. And I don't want to use the word shame, because it's sort of not the right word. 慚啊，慚愧嘅慚字。慚 is you really could use shame. Shame about yourself that you have done something so wrongful. And then, kwai, that means so difficult to find the word to represent that part. It's like, or you can use remorseful, remorse towards others that I have done such a wrongful action towards others. Okay, so two parts to that one, to the penitence. Okay, Sandra?
Could I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
So could it include actually doing something which is kind of the opposite action from what you actually did, even if it was mental or speech, to do something that kind of shows your intention has changed?
What does it mean?
I'm thinking now of Ford Mountain. Remember, some of, like, if they did something to hurt a certain group of people, they would make the dolls, right, and then give them
to that group of people.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so something, or if you did something out of hate, then you would do something out of love. That's what I'm understanding.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, all right. Yeah, that is so. But remember, it's not a replacement therapy. It's not a replacement therapy, or it's neither a pleasing therapy. Of course, if you, for example, if you have done a wrongful action out of anger, then you can try to learn to cultivate more metta, like compassion, because compassion could actually conquer anger, right? So if you have done something wrongful action out of stinginess, then you can cultivate generosity to actually neutralize that stinginess. Is that what you mean? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, good. So did I explain it okay now? Okay, good. All right. Okay, all right. Anybody else? Or okay, so that yeah. But remember, it's not a replacement therapy. Okay, it has to be sincere. Yes.
I think the main point is when that karma regenerates, if you truly repent, you will not add to that karma. You will not react in any way.
Yes.
Because if you do, you again influence the karma.
Exactly. Yes.
So no matter what happens, that's the only way to stop it.
Yes. Yes. Paul said that when that karma actually surfaces or come back, and you don't react to that karma, because then when you start to react, you actually will multiply that karma again. Yeah. So you deal with it with equanimity. Okay, a balance of mind, embracing the dark karma, embracing the dark results. Oh well, these dark results. Wow. As I said, I think did I say in meditation, something like that. It actually, with difficult situation, it actually is an opportunity to build up our resilience. With pleasant and sweet situation, it's actually some opportunity for us to be more grateful, appreciative. Did I say that in meditation? Because I can't remember. It's just, I teach too many times. It's just all confusing. Okay, all right. So I want a little discussion tonight. It's not really just it's really not just a reflection. It's really a contemplation or thinking about this. We all know about this dependent origination, right? So maybe you want to this dependent origination, the 12 links of dependent origination. So you all should remember. You all should have memorized them by now. At least the Po Lam group should have memorized them by now. Okay? So, looking at this, the dependent origination, how do you relate them with this process of dark and bright karma, bringing dark and bright results? How do you relate with this? Do you see any similarity between these two? Or any relationship in this? Nora or Versha? Nora, okay.
Well, the dark ones are, craving, clinging, and then it just repeats the whole cycle over and over again. So, the dark karma leads dark results.
Okay.
You're aging in death and where you'll be reborn, and then if you don't get out of that cycle, it'll just keep going round and around.
Yeah, good, okay. Versha?
So the two things that you spoke about that connect to this for me were the sankharas, or the formations.
Yes.
Is when we do that volitional actions. And then looking across the dependent origination, I think about, so then whether it's good or bad, we have feelings, and then the next step is what's going to determine whether it's good or bad karma that we're creating, dark or bright karma. So it's the formations and then the feelings for me that resonate in this discussion.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think the whole wheel is karma.
Yes. Very good.
And the only way out is to break the wheel.
Yeah. The Paul said that the whole wheel is karma. And the only way out is break the wheel. Find an exit. Otherwise, going round and around. Right? So you can see from 1 o'clock over there, formation of sankhara. So because of that's why the wheel start turning. And remember, the sankhara and the consciousness is from the last ignorance formations. It's from this last life. And then coming down to name and form, all the way to becoming, It's this lifetime. And then because of becoming, that brings birth and aging and death again. That's next lifetime. So you can see 3 cycles of 3, the past, present, and future in here. But also, with this dark and bright karma, you can also see the past, the present, and the future in there. Isn't it? It's exactly the same. So don't forget about this because this is the whole wheel of karma. Right? If we do not react to this feeling, we don't crave for it or we don't reject it, then we break the cycle there. Or even we crave for it, we don't cling onto it, like abandon both the dark and the bright karma. That's cutting off at the clinging part, right? Cutting off completely at the clinging part, then you won't become. And because of all this abandoning, then you won't become. And how would that cycle goes on? It doesn't go on. Okay? So think about this for the rest of the week. Think more about this. It's actually a very strong correlation between the two of them. You can say, actually, this one is this one, or this one is this one. Where does karma come from? It's all come from here. Right? Where does dark karma come from? It's all come from this craving. Where does bright karma come from? Because we do not have these volition formations. Or the volition formations are sort of bright volition formations. We don't have the dark ones. So it all can fit into this cycle. And this cycle can all fit into this. They are no different. Ignorance.
Ignorance, this is a
Clockwise, yes.
We want the bright karma, you bring back the anti-karma.
The bright karma,
Cessation of the suffering. The other one.
hey, but that is the total. You have the total abandonment of bright karma and dark karma. The bright and the dark, then is total cessation. Right? So, bright karma not necessarily always go anti-clockwise though.
This is the craving.
Yeah, it starts with craving, but craving for bright karma, for doing, is still sufferings. You're craving to do wholesome things all the time, and it's still sufferings, right? So that's why it's still clockwise. Only with total cessation then it's anti-clockwise.
Cannot say it's a bright karma.
It's not a bright karma.
Yeah.
When somebody is,
Wrongly, this is totally
yes,
not a bright
yes. That's why at the end, you cannot say that it's not a bright karma. It's still a bright karma because it will bring. If you help people, if you constantly help people, you will have or if you constantly like very generous, next life you will be born very rich. That is a bright karma.
Yeah, but to the moment you say this is a craving.
Then it's not a bright karma.
Yes.
Karma. Yes. Yes. Okay. When you start to crave it, I want the next life. I want to be reborn very rich. Then even though you actually, be very generous this lifetime, you may have a mix. Because
people say they just want to help.
Oh,
It's a good thing.
not necessarily a good thing. At the end of the day, it's the abandonment of that intention that actually determines whether that cycle going back. right? This is a very deep thing. Don't just look at this 12. I mean, we have been studying these 12 things for so many times, so many times. Yes.
Sifu, is it maybe the line between an intention for a certain result and a motivation with a certain mind?
Oh, yes. Intention for certain results and the motivation to push that intention.
Just the motivation with like the motivation of metta or karuna or mudita.
Okay.
With no thinking about where that's going to end up in the world.
Ah. Okay. Yes.
Compared to intention of.
I intentionally send metta to you.
For something.
Or intentionally send metta to somebody.
Yeah. Even if that intention is, oh, I want that person to be happy.
Happy, yeah. That is still, there is a goal there. Yeah. Ultimately, there's.
To your mind.
Yeah. It strengthened that volition. It strengthened that sankara already, volitional formation already. Yes, you're right. The motivation is just, for example, Eva said, the motivation of sending metta or mudita or karuna to just send it out with no intention of certain people being happy, certain people receiving it or not. No. Yes, that is the motivation. But that is a wholesome motivation. But then we'll still have wholesome of bright karma, bright results. But at the end, you still need to abandon that. What do I mean is, it comes just naturally. It just comes naturally. Yeah, Paul.
Really doesn't come from you. Well, it does, but it comes from you, but I can't really.
It comes from you, but it's not really coming from this you.
It's more
not the brain.
The experience.
Not the brain. It comes from within. It's come from this existence, but not from having any intentional thoughts or any motivational thoughts at all.
Maybe you let it materialize.
Yeah, it just come naturally.
It's like that, the Buddha's simile of the ground, the water bubbling up into the lake with no.
Yeah.
With no source.
Yeah. Okay. So we can see just a minute intention could bring big result. Just little intention. Let alone we have so many big unwholesome intentions. Okay? All right? Yes, Paul?
I asked you a question the very first Dhamma sharing
That you attended?
that you put on,
Oh.
that you attended.
Oh.
And I think it was something can your metta or can your intentions change someone's karma?
Oh, can our intentions change someone's karma? No. Nobody can change anybody's karma. Because we plant our own causes. We have to reap our own results. We will reap our own results. Nobody can change anybody's karma. Nobody. But we can, ourselves. If somebody can change our karma, then I will definitely, let me know. Let me know. If anybody can change my karma, please let me know. I want somebody. Zen metta is different. You're not changing their karma. You're supporting them. to deal with the future, but not to deal with the past. You send metta, you actually sharing with them that kind of energy or that kind of thoughts. But it also depends on their own karma, whether they can actually receive it. If they have a block of wall, if they have a great wall right in front of them, no matter how strong our karma, our metta is, or how many people sending the metta to them, they can't get it. They can't get it. And if they don't have a wall, they are very receptive. They are very open-minded, and they are very humble. Then they will, even though there is little metta in the universe for them, they will get it.
We are not really sending metta.
No, we are not sending metta. No.
Not really sending metta. We just by change ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the whole environment, the atmosphere change.
Yes.
We are not sending ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, we actually because we change. We actually these changes. Everything around us changes. So we are not just like this. No, no, no.
Just talk.
No, it's not a talk. No, yeah. You can feel it when people really sending the metta. Really, they have strong metta. You can actually just feel it around them. Yeah. Okay? So it's just a very simple chapter. But they actually carry a lot of meaning in there, very deep meaning. Yeah. Let us dedicate our merits. May these blessings extend to all, that we with all the other living beings together will attain the Buddha way. May more and more people will encounter the wise words of the Buddha, study them, understand them, practice them, and help themselves to disentangle themselves from totally liberate themselves from their own defilements, afflictions, sufferings, and be truly happy and peaceful.